Hello, everyone.
Hello. Bob, you're a trooper for being on this call. I know you definitely not been feeling the greatest, so
Yeah,
thanks for
I
joining
was certainly doing better. A little relapse or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, what's going on here? Says join a meeting. I thought I had joined.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Okay.
can't see you.
Oh, so John, Bob's saying he can't see us. Doesn't look like his video's off from our side. Any other thoughts?
Bob, can you hear?
I can hear you fine. Yes, I sure can. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This is very strange.
The Zoom window on the front.
Well, actually, let's see here. Guess I'll rejoin here.
Bob, is it working?
I can see you now, or I hear you and now see you. I left the meeting and came back on, and my computer was being scanned automatically for viruses. I'm not sure if that's what went wrong or what. I hate that word virus anymore.
All right, we'll wait another minute or so here and then get started. All righty, let's go ahead and get started. Bob, do you want me to go ahead and facilitate the meeting, or would you like to do it?
No, if you would, I appreciate it.
Certainly.
Thank you.
So, Mayor Hillman is still quite sick. He has been for the past week. Not up to attending the meeting today, but he did want us to go ahead with the meeting. So we do have Mayor Pro Tem Bob Boland, who's also not been feeling well for a little while here, but he is joining us, which we appreciate. Thank you, Bob. And thank you all for joining us. As some of you may know, we had some breakthrough cases of COVID here at City Hall. So we have John Kane, who is in isolation right now with COVID. I just came out of isolation. Fortunately, several members here have tested negative, and throughout the whole ordeal, and I've kept things operating here. Wonder on our staff, who's joining us today, and also Kelsey. Jared, our planner, who's also on the call here, he got tested as well until he got his results. He was working remotely for a few days. So we have been operating throughout this whole event. Again, albeit a little more remotely than we normally do. City Hall is still, once this happened a week ago Friday, we got the first confirmation of a potential exposure. We shut down City Hall to the public, as we were for a while, quite a while through the earlier months of the pandemic. So again, we're still operating fully. People can knock on the door if they need to, and they can put something through the slot. They can call us, email us. So we're continuing to provide full services the best we can, particularly with limited staff there for a period. But we're gradually getting more healthy, and hope John's back soon, as well as the mayor. Diane Brees, our city clerk, also tested positive and has been home this past week sick. She still has some symptoms, not feeling well, so she stayed home today, even though she could technically come back, but she's still not feeling well. So please keep those staff members and the mayor and Bob in your thoughts through this. It's been a bit of a rough time this past 10 days or so. So again, thanks for joining us. We're at a bit of a crossroads here. We're looking forward to hearing from Dr. Ryan in just a moment here, but we also need to be giving some more thought to potential options for our downtown marketplace. You'll recall that our current plan is to break it down after Thanksgiving weekend, and then totally reopen Minor Street. However, we are also, based on some feedback we've received, comments from different folks, that it might be prudent. Of course, we've all been adaptive in amazing ways over this last year plus. We want to come up with some options or contingencies to consider as well. But we do really need to make a decision in the next few weeks about what we want to do with Minor Street Marketplace, if we want to do anything different. So that's not the topic for today. We can talk about it a little bit if we'd like to. I know in 2 weeks, staff will be bringing back some thoughts about different options based on the feedback we've received. So we'll have a more robust conversation at our next meeting in 2 weeks. So please join us then as we decide how we want to move into the colder weather and handling the marketplace. All righty. Well, without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Ryan. But before I do that, I would like to congratulate Clear Creek County and Dr. Ryan, Department of Public Health, for the ribbon cutting today at the Collaborative Care Clinic. And I think it has a different name now, and he can probably correct me on that, but it's been known for a while as a Collaborative Care Clinic. It has Centura Primary Care Health there, as well as mental health services through Jefferson Mental Health, and then also services through the county public health that were formerly offered through the resource center. So they have a lot more space to work with now. It was a well-attended event. It's nice to see them officially up and running. They've been operating for a number of weeks, but we had tours of the building, saw some people I haven't seen in a long time in person, which was a lot of fun. So Tim, I just want to congratulate you and all your staff in the county for making this happen. It's been a long-standing goal of this community, the city, the county, the community, to find a way to sustain primary health care here in the county after a couple times where it came and it went, and it's a win-win for everyone. So we look forward to working with you going forward. We certainly it's been an interesting time through the pandemic to be working with you. I hope things will settle down and we can turn our attention to so many other needs that we have in this community. But we're well equipped now with this new facility to do that. So thank you, Dr. Ryan, and I'll turn it over to you for your update.
Thanks, Andrew. And I can't take any credit for what is now it's the Clear Creek Health and Wellness Center is the official title.
Thank
that will
you.
be going up on the building. I can take no credit. I'm just an occupant in here trying to serve the broader public. But to your point, I think this center will go a very long way to providing a number of additional services in a very convenient and now a brand new building for the broader community. So a huge win for the community, to be sure. What's going on in COVID world? So across the country, as you probably are aware, there's been a substantial decline over the last several weeks across the entire US. Unfortunately, that has not panned out here in Colorado. Colorado, we have been literally at a plateau over the last 3 to 4 weeks and have hovered there, maddeningly so. And unfortunately, over the last week, that has taken a turn up. We're no longer on a plateau. We're now increasing the number of cases over the last week. Currently 900 plus individuals hospitalized in the ICU across the state. 78% or roughly thereof are unvaccinated individuals. So as inconvenient and as challenging as COVID is when you are vaccinated, be thankful you are, because I imagine the outcome might be a little different if you were unvaccinated completely. So here in Clear Creek County, we currently have a slight uptick from last week. We have 25 active cases. Our test positivity is at 5.7% across the state. It's at 7.2%. So we'll see where the next several weeks go in terms of our cases. Really trying to keep a handle on it in the schools with masking and the testing that's going on regularly, and trying to identify cases as quickly as possible and keep an outbreak from occurring. That's our primary objective. Are we going to have cases in the schools? Absolutely. But it's a matter of keeping them contained so that it doesn't impact the entire school. That's our objective, and so far so good. So going to continue on that path. We are continuing to have the vaccine clinic here out of the new facility every single Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. With the Johnson & Johnson and Moderna vaccines available, with Pfizer being available at Safeway and other locations around Clear Creek. No news yet on the Moderna and or J&J booster shot or booster dose. The FDA is, as we speak, looking at the data that has been submitted by those two companies. So right now, what I can say is the Moderna vaccine so far is doing the best in terms of the fewest breakthrough cases and the fewest severe outcomes among those who are fully vaccinated. So good news is that is the vast majority of folks in our county have been vaccinated with the Moderna vaccine. As far as getting our little ones vaccinated, there is a meeting October 26th. The regulatory or advisory committee from the FDA is going to be meeting and talking about the data that's been submitted from Pfizer. And hopefully the first week of November, they will give that approval and we can get our 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated. That's the plan. This week, we are rolling out the flu vaccine. We are in the schools today and over the next week, offering that to any and all children and their parents who would like to get the flu vaccine anyway. We think there's going to be an uptick in the flu this year, primarily because everyone has gone away with the mask, which I think really significantly impacted in a good way our flu numbers last year. But with the masks no longer being worn generally on public, we can pretty much expect the flu to be revisiting us with numbers that we've seen historically over the years. So would strongly encourage you to get a vaccine for the flu as well. Any questions so far? Testing is available. It's now 3 days a week in Clear Creek County, 2 days a week in Idaho Spring on Tuesday and Thursday, and 1 day a week in Georgetown. They've also expanded their hours, so they're there from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And although an appointment is necessary before you go, it's free and you're likely to get an appointment same day. Although I've said that in the past and slots have filled up over the last several weeks. So do think ahead at least a day if you're intent on getting tested.
Dr. Ryan, the flu shot, is that available as a walk-in at the clinic at this time?
It is, yep. We're offering them obviously on Wednesdays, but any day that we're here, no appointment necessary, show up, we can get you vaccinated. We do not have the 65 plus, meaning if you're 65 or older, they encourage you to get that vaccine. It's the same exact vaccine. It's just a different higher dosage for the older folks. The Safeway in Idaho Springs, as well as the pharmacies in Evergreen, all have the 65 plus. We've ordered it. We haven't gotten it yet. So we just have the regular vaccine, flu vaccine. But again, that will provide a significant level of protection, even if you are over 65. It's just the additional dosage for those a little bit older.
Thank you. I saw another hand raised, I believe.
And those are free.
Anything else for Dr. Ryan? All righty. Well, Dr. Ryan, thank you for joining us as always on these biweekly meetings. It really is helpful to us to trying to get the word out and be as best informed as possible, which is sometimes a challenge nowadays. So thank you for helping keep us on the straight and narrow.
You're most welcome.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move forward. I think we'll just go ahead with the roundtable as we often do at this meeting. Steve, why don't we start with you? Any updates?
Yeah, this weekend was a little bit more mellow than the previous weekend. Still pretty good weather, a little bit of breezy, but it was nice weather, good crowd. I've noticed that the COVID awareness, mask wearing is down with the clientele coming through. It's not really talked about very much. It's kind of interesting to watch. One thing I was going to talk about is on the topic of workforce housing is I had a meeting with Mayor Blackhawk and city administrators, project managers for this Artesian Point. I don't know if you know much about that, but 10 miles from here, they're building a big complex up there. And Proximo Spirits is building a 10-acre distillery resort. And it's big enough to where, in perspective, the water rights for that distillery is 150,000 gallons a day. So it's not going to be a small operation. They mentioned 2 other breweries and a couple other facilities up there, and they're kind of courting us to do a project. But when I asked about workforce housing, they wasn't even a consideration of it. They said they just send people to Idaho Springs. And I'm like, well, we're at capacity in Idaho Springs. And like, well, we don't want any more residents up here. So they just send people down to Clear Creek County, which I thought was interesting. So at some point that it probably should be talked about. Like I figure if I look at the plot map and the different businesses, they're going to need about 80 employees to run that operation. They have 10 miles from here and with no consideration for housing. So something to try to figure out. But so Tin Cup is the name of the name brand for that 10-acre resort. They're doing things like convention center, wedding venue. They already purchased 25 Airstream trailers they're going to use as like hipster housing for like overnight guests for the resort. And they have a lot of good plans, and they seem to be very well organized. And I don't know if anybody's been to Blackhawk lately. I haven't been there in years, and I went up there for the tour, and they've revitalized the downtown area a lot. It looks really nice.
So is this going to be over at Blackhawk then, Steve?
Well, the artisanal point is where the KOA station is up there. It's on top of the hill, like maybe as the crow flies, it's probably only not even a half mile from Blackhawk, but it's straight down, and they're building a main thoroughfare that's going to go from Blackhawk straight up to Artisanal Point. And they're trying to make this a tourist destination that's not gambling. So people can come there. They're right now they have a average guest, which is overnight. They're trying to get these 2 or 3 night guests that can come there and gamble, but also have other stuff to do. So it seems pretty nice, and they seem, like I said, very organized and doing a pretty good job. I guess the other things is, I guess the trunk or treat is pretty well organized. I haven't heard anything more about that. We're doing a little thing here in Main Street. And then I'm also just curious to keep the conversation going, like what's going to happen, what is everybody going to think should happen with Main Street after Thanksgiving, and what's going to be the factor that's going to make that decision? Like, how are we going to move forward with that decision? Because it's either we need to invest, Tom Ackers or other people, on what we're doing on Main Street, or we need to find some place to store a bunch of stuff.
I think we should have that conversation at our next meeting.
Okay.
We'll have some stuff, staff will have some stuff some alternative ideas, and we need to make sure that anything that we talk about is vetted through Public Works and appropriate to be able to be done. But I understand the urgency to get this accomplished, but we will have something for you at our next meeting.
Okay.
So that won't be for 2 weeks then, right, Jonathan?
Correct.
Chip, are you thinking we need to talk sooner than that about it?
I'm just wondering, I mean, that's, we're already like, it's the 11th or 12th or something like that. We got another 2 weeks. We're already at the end of the month. Should we be thinking about this a little bit more beforehand? I mean, I'm good with whatever you decide to do. Again, we're not doing too much out on the street, but it's, people need to figure out what they're doing.
Agreed.
I am not opposed to having some preliminary discussion now if we want to do that. Just to, as a reminder, the direction we are going right now is that the marketplace will be broken down the Monday and Tuesday after Thanksgiving weekend, and then Minor Street would be reopened completely on Wednesday. So that's currently the direction we're going. But if we want to adjust that or make any changes to that, we certainly can, and that's what this is all about. So do we want to just start a little conversation here now about some ideas, Steve?
So when you say completely, 2-way traffic parking on both sides?
That was our understanding from the direction we got a while back. But if that needs to be modified or changed, we can do that. And Chip's right, time is marching on, and the more notice we have for changing signs, removing barriers, cleaning the street, you know, all those things we have to do, the better. So we're not, but I know that staff had in mind to bring back some specific options at our next meeting in 2 weeks. But again, we can certainly have a little bit of discussion right now, kick around some ideas that might help.
Would it-
inform.
Would it be possible to maybe have them come back with something for, and maybe do another meeting next week, next Monday, instead of waiting 2 weeks, and give them a chance to put some of their thoughts together at that point? Would that make any sense?
I don't think so. But what
Okay.
we can do, what I kind of was thinking as you guys were talking is we need to create, the whole idea all along has been to create a plan to cover us under any public health situation. And we've been trying to think about alternatives. The alternative where we're open, Jared and I have been working on, and we, you know, we've had a kind of a hard time at City Hall, like for working this last week. But what we do have is some alternatives that we've been thinking about. Really, what this group could give us direction on right now that would be helpful and we could kind of start preparing for is if we want to have outdoor dining as a part of Minor Street or not. That's really it. Like, do we want a two-way street? Do we want a one-way street? Do we want to keep it closed for pedestrian access? And then the other big issue is snow removal. The Minor Street Marketplace puts a huge burden on Public Works in terms of snow removal, and we all know how the south side of the street gets. So we just need to think about how we're going to plan for that eventuality. If we do have outdoor dining, we just need to be able to prepare for the snow removal. So those are the really big questions. We've been looking at different alternatives for dining areas. We've looked at, there's a really cool thing the Wine Coop did with pallet racking that would work with street traffic. There's some other elevated platforms that could be used for dining, and Golden, I don't know if anybody's been there, has some metal barricades that could stop vehicle traffic at the speeds we typically have on Minor Street. Jared has been looking at some diagonal parking opportunities in front of some of our businesses to see if we might be able to fit that with one-way parking to keep some good parking along the street and still be able to have some outdoor dining areas. I don't know if any of those alternatives sound good to anyone, but those are kind of the basics. And then we could come back with some more specific alternatives based on the preference of the task force.
I think those all sound interesting.
We could we are planning on having our thing done on Thursday, but one of the things we're really trying to do is make sure that Public Works signs off on the alternatives, and staff, of course. We could, what about if we had our draft put together and then could we start circulating it, or would you rather have that completed first, Andy?
Well, we did have a staff meeting this morning, and what we had talked about there is how to proceed. Is at our staff meeting next Monday that we would talk about these options and what we would bring back to this group the following Monday. So I don't think there'd be any problem with after that meeting next Monday, we could certainly get a draft out to this group for review, and that might help make our conversation a bit more productive at the meeting the following week. Wonder?
Public Works is out next week is the only thing.
Right,
John will be out next week.
right. He doesn't get back until that Monday when our next regularly scheduled meeting is in 2 weeks, so. Let me ask this question. So is this group currently thinking, and I realize, you know, we're all wondering what's going to happen next with the pandemic and the variants. Are we thinking that we do want to keep part of Minor available for outdoor dining and use? Is that kind of the way this is trending? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, representing Tommy and I, because we prefer to not have outdoor dining unless we have any ordinances limiting indoor dining. It's just too hard to service outdoor dining if we don't have to have it.
Okay.
Staffing is,
Go ahead.
staffing is always a challenge, especially these days. and having the outdoor dining and especially when it's off and on like that, it does make it really challenging. You know, so sometimes again, you know, if we have to reduce our seating, then I'm with Steve.
You know, it seems like having two-way traffic and parking both sides is rolling some really big dice. The pandemic has been pretty unpredictable, and if we have to, you know, shut everything down again, which is a possibility. I don't know what the odds are, but it seems to me having some sort of a hybrid where we could pivot one way or the other without a huge moving of furniture and facilities, and it would be a waste. It would make sense, even though it might cost some parking outside. And I don't know. I just think we need a hybrid so we can be more agile.
Yep.
I was just thinking, what if we just establish in each block an area on the north side so it's getting sun, because on the south side we don't get any sun. So just establish an area in each block for outdoor dining. And just a fairly small area in each block, and that way it gives you some. Basically, I'm looking at it being basically for to-go dining, so that people can eat out there if they so desire. I was really amazed last year how much outdoor dining that we actually did have, but.
And yeah, Chip, that's kind of what we're looking into. The main challenge is going to be getting whatever barricade that we really, you know, desire, and getting that in place. But yeah, your comment is duly noted. That is something that we're looking into.
I agree with Bob. I think setting us up for this flexibility by having something like one-way traffic would make it easier to move when the barriers are procured to do the dining over there. But just going for two-way traffic parking on both sides, I don't think is giving us enough flexibility if we have some kind of change that happens with COVID. And also I felt like it was safer for pedestrians. Traffic moves slower. It was more of a spectator traffic when we had one-way traffic. It made so people drove down the middle of the street rather than like worried about hitting side view mirrors when it kind of was tight. So I thought that was good for the tourists and people driving, safe for pedestrians, and also sets us up for some flexibility. So something like Bob saying, a hybrid program like that would be worth trying, because you can always go back to two-way traffic parking on both sides.
Hey, Andy, I've got a question.
Sure.
And this may be for John, but is there, and I haven't totally dug into Cheney's master plan report, but have there been studies done that would talk about a continued one-way traffic? Like, is the plan to ultimately, or how do we get to the ultimate plan? What's the ultimate vision?
There's incremental infrastructure improvements in the plan that are called for. The idea is to create a space that can be changed over quickly, so it can be used as a driving court, or it can be used for parking, or it can be used for outdoor dining. And then it would be able to transition between those uses as we go. So there is some, you know, it's an incremental thing here. So I think that definitely is part of this conversation, because I do think that we have shown conclusively that people will eat outside in Idaho Springs in the wintertime. Depending on, you know, of course, situation and everything. There's dining considerations, and of course the ability to actually run that is critical. But that was the goal, is to create a space that can be flexible in its use.
Is the ultimate plan then to possibly do away with the curbs so that it really is that VNRF sort of atmosphere? VNRF.
Yeah, so that's part of the plan. I had talked a little bit with Cheney about, making it one way with parking on one side of the street in the winter. I'm kind of on the same page as you, Carla. And she did mention that some of the engineering, co-consultants, she was going to double check with them. She thought that they had some issues with that. But yeah, that's still something that we're looking into. Happy to have comments about the plan. More than happy to take in those comments. That's a part of the period we're in right now. We are going to have the event on Wednesday in coordination with the chamber. I think we're probably going to chat about that maybe a little bit here later in this meeting. But yes, the goal for Studio Seed and the consulting group is to get comments, hopefully final comments in by the end of the month. And then maybe talk about it with Planning Commission one more time in a draft format in November, and then trying to progress towards a final format in December.
Great. So I have it up because I did finally start looking at it. Sorry, I didn't look at it sooner, but if you guys look at page 17 of that document, I think John distributed it to everyone previously. There's an image that really sort of harkens to that eliminating curbs, and gives you a little bit of what that vision could look like possibly. So. And I guess my point in that is linking what's happening this year to what the ultimate vision is, and starting to sort of play with that, even though we don't make full-on infrastructure changes, but starting to implement small things that play with, does this really work for us in the future, right?
And one thing we really wanted was to have a plan here, so that last year we kind of got caught standing around when we could have been planning for the winter operations one way or the other. And we are entering a time where public health rules may change very quickly. And so we need to be able to pivot if we have to. And we need to make sure that we have a good plan for that. So that was really our intention here. Not necessarily to say on November 30th, we'll be doing XYZ, although we may need to. But I think that I just want to make it clear that that's what we're trying to do, is just have a plan so that everybody knows what we're going to do if we have to.
I think one way to view all of this is that we are still in a pretty steep learning curve all the way. And we can't lock ourselves into anything at this point, even at the end of November.
So Steve, I think it was you that brought up about some of those areas that would remain blocked off on the north side of the street, or maybe it was Chip, I'm sorry, whoever brought that up. Is it envisioned that those would be common dining areas for whatever restaurant wants to use them, or is that the thinking?
That's kind of what I was thinking, yeah.
Okay.
And instead of trying to have every restaurant, every place have their own individual spots, maybe just have some common spaces.
That's what
That way it's consolidated a little bit more and might flow better.
That's kind of the line we've been thinking about too.
So this would be a way of offering an option for those who may not be comfortable eating inside. They could order takeout, go to those dining areas on a nice day and eat outside, and that's the thinking, I guess. Okay. And of course, I know everybody, it's on everybody's mind. Of course, we would need to figure out how that area would be maintained. Maybe we might have divvy it up by block based on the restaurants that are most likely to use those areas, and that they would take turns, policing those areas or cleaning them periodically, checking them. So I think it could work. We would just we'd have to think about the ongoing maintenance for those areas. That's what comes to my mind. Wonder?
I think there's some liquor law issues
Oh.
with that. Just keep that in mind too, about, like, let's say, for example, Tommy Knockers, if there was a spot outside project support, there's still a road, you can't cross the road, so they wouldn't be able to have beer there.
But we had
That just might be a thing, unless it was just, you know, the street was eliminated, like in the way future, and then it was like a common consumption thing, but that's quite difficult because to get the common consumption, I don't know that much about it, but I just know that the liquor crossing the street is not a thing. They won't allow it.
You know, this alternative, that wouldn't happen. It would be an encroachment area of a business. So for instance, say Cidery had it, they could potentially have a consumption area, but in the ones that there wouldn't be any liquor crossing. It would be more intended for a to-go dining situation only.
Chip?
And actually, in that scenario, Jonathan, if you had that spot in front of like at the cidery, they could then service that area with alcohol and other people could bring their food over. That could be a real win-win.
Yeah, it's kind of what Sadie has been really involved in this process too, and she's unfortunately not able to be here today, but that would be, you know, we need to make sure we dot all the I's and cross the T's, but we're trying to figure out how we could accomplish this goal. And, you know, there's some precedent in the state. Fruta did something like this, and it is very cool. And a couple other communities have done it too. So I think that the big thing is that we need to just develop the alternatives and make sure that the clerk and everyone is on board with it, just to make sure legally we can do everything we want to do and you know, make sure that the snow can be removed and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll have a, you know, once we have a boundary of where we can color, then we'll put all the colors in there and see what comes out.
You're on mute, Carla.
Thanks. John, is there a reason why, because we started down this path last year with doing sort of a beer garden in front of the Moose, and as I recall, Asta was in favor of working with everyone that they could help service that area.
There's a couple of issues that come into play. One is just the area that would be utilized, and we have currently, there needs to be contiguous property essentially, and that was a challenge with the beer garden and where it would go. There was some administrative challenges, just how we're going to take care of that and police it and all those kinds of things. I'm not saying that's not something that's surmountable. It's just we ran out of time last year, I think, is more of anything else. So I do think that that's really the thing, and we could create, I mean, there is potential to do that as well. We just need to, I think what we need to do is just, we need to start thinking about the next, you know, we've been really reactionary in everything we've done so far, and we need to stop doing that. We need to make a plan, and then we need to really do this from a policy perspective the right way. And that's what we're trying to do, is just make sure that we're not just, you know, like you said, if that may be the best possible option and a good way to skin the cat here, but we just need to make sure that we have alternatives and do an alternative analysis, and everybody is on the same page. Because, you know, we understand, especially Steve's comments about, well, and Chip too, about staffing levels right now. That's such a critical concern for us that we, you know, if we can figure out a way to do this easy, then I think that's a good thing.
Well, and I would suggest that, and you might have already done this, but in studying the big picture, Janie and her team probably have come across certain rules and regulations that help to institute that. So I would definitely have them weigh in on even the temporary situation, not just the overall situation.
Yeah, I think that's we agree.
Well, John's right. You know, last year we did run into some, you know, challenges with having that common consumption area at the Moose, and not that they can't be overcome, but there were some hurdles to making that happen and make it work well for everybody. So, any further discussion on this? Anybody want to talk about before we move on? Randy, you're on the north side. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I kind of came in late, so I'm gonna hold anything back in terms of, you know, the great wisdom of other panelists.
Okay. Good. On the downtown master plan, before I forget to mention it, there will be a presentation of the draft downtown master plan this Wednesday at Tommyknockers. It'll be in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce mixer, and that goes from 5:30 to 7:30. We anticipate the presentation on the downtown master plan will be at 6, and that's in person at Tommyknockers. So that is a chance to hear the overview of the master plan, to provide any public comment on it. So we encourage you to attend, encourage others to attend. It's not just for chamber members or for businesses. It's open to anyone, any member of the public. And then next Monday, a week from today, at work session, city council work session, there'll be another presentation of the draft downtown master plan from the consultant. So although that's not a time for public comment, our virtual meetings are always live streamed, so people can listen in to that presentation next Monday at 6. And then it's likely, I was just talking with staff this morning, it's likely that the updated draft of the master plan will go back to Planning Commission, the first meeting in November, and then it will go back to City Council for consideration, and we are hoping to get it adopted before the year's out. So there are a number of opportunities to have public comment and input on the plan. We encourage everyone to participate in one or more of those opportunities, and City Council meetings are always open to public comment as well, every other week. That's another time for people to make their comments known. So I'll make sure everybody knew that. Okay, Steve, I know we were last with you when we had a related discussion there. Did you have anything else you wanted to report on? Okay. All righty, Chip, do you have any update for us?
I gotta get unmuted. I don't have much of an update, as Steve was saying. Last weekend was still pretty darn good considering the time of the year that we are. Our weather has been fantastic. The leaves have been late. So that's all been good, I think, for business. Driving around downtown, looking at people, walking around, it's really busy. I walked out of the back of my restaurant actually, was it a week ago Saturday? Maybe it was before that. I can't remember the day. I couldn't believe the amount of traffic that was coming down 15th Avenue, coming down Idaho Springs, Idaho Street, flowing in. I mean, there must have been 20, and this was at 12:30 in the afternoon. And there must have been 20 cars in line going through the parking lot. Parking lots are totally full. Just a stream of cars looking around for places to park, i.e. no places to park. This is really what's starting to hold us back. And again, we got to get this parking lot happening. I'm done.
All right, good deal. Let's see, Randy, any update for us?
Oh, just, I mean, from what we saw at the Frothy Cup, last week, we actually saw a decline from the prior week by about 20%. So the prior week was a really huge week for us. It was one of the top 3 weeks of the year. But even though we declined about 20%, we were still up about 20% over 2020. So overall, we're in that curve is now beginning to slow as we come to the end of the leaf turn. But it was still a pretty good week.
Great. Thanks, sir. Let's see, Lindsay, any update for the group?
Hey, everyone. So not really much on our end, just helping where we can with the special improvement district, and had a good time at the healthcare grand opening today. Really excited about that, to have that up and running. Just, word of mouth, let everyone know that we still have loan funding available. So we have the emergency working capital loan that's still available for COVID recovery, as well as our traditional loan programs. As far as the deli goes, I'm sure you've noticed we're closing several days a week just due to having no employees. It's just workforce has disappeared. And we've been struggling to find reliable employees. I do have a new manager, a very good friend of mine, moving up from New Mexico this week. So excited. And he's taking over the whole operation for me. He's got 35 plus years in hotel and food and beverage management. So excited to have him. He's kind of retiring and coming and doing this for me. So I'm lucking out. Yeah, so hopefully things will pick back up. We'll get some more people in and get back to where we were. I'm excited for the mountains to open moving forward. So I guess that's it.
Great. Thank you. Carla, do you have anything else for the group?
You're on mute, Carla.
No?
I do not. Thank you, Andy.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining us. Nate, did you have anything for the group? I don't know if you might have an update on Trunk or Treat. I know we talked about that briefly. Any update on that?
I talked with Sadie about it last week. She's such a good leader in that realm. But from what I understand, I think the plan is to have anywhere from 2 to 3 to possibly 4 cars in each block. I think most of the cars are representing different entities like the rec center. I think the Mountain Youth Network with Becca. We're going to have a police car. We're reaching out to the Colorado State Police way station. I know they've participated in the past. And I'll reach out to Kelly with the fire department and go from there. But so we're planning on having a number of vehicles. I do know that is actually scheduled for to begin at 2:00. So 2:00 on the 29th is when the actual parade begins. The setup is supposed to start at 1:00. It won't take very long to set up. So that's what I know about that event. It's technically scheduled to last till 4. Sadie's idea was to leave it open a little longer. Obviously the Carlson kids will be back in their school before 3:00, but they were hoping to maybe bring other business or other people to the event and keep it open a little bit later till 4. I think that's about it as far as that specific event. But I'm available for questions if anyone has any questions.
So am I correct? There won't be any additional street closures planned. It's just intended to have vehicles parked with Trunk or Treat in each block that's already closed on Minor. Is that the concept?
That's correct. That's the concept. So they would move the barriers, put the vehicle in, and put the barriers back. So it would be somewhere along the area where there aren't already like the restaurants that have the big setups. That's what I understand. And Sadie was working on a plan as to who was going to be where and how that was going to work.
Okay, great. By the way, I might mention to the group that the Idaho Springs Marketing Alliance will be meeting with City Council next Monday at work session at 6 to talk about a budget request for that group. That's, as everyone knows, that's a relatively new group, focused mainly on the downtown, and they're seeking some assistance for some of their initiatives for the downtown. So, of course, this is directly related to a lot of what this group does, and also can tie into the downtown master plan and visioning for the future of how we want to handle things in the downtown moving forward. So anyone wants to listen in on that will be next Monday night at 6 on virtual. Randy?
Hey, question for Steve. Steve, is the ISMA still planning on holding a board meeting at your place on Tuesday?
Yeah, tomorrow at 4:00.
At 4:00. Okay, great. Thank you. I just wasn't sure. I thought I'd seen a notice that the date or time had been changed. So thank you.
All righty, I see a couple folks on the line by phone. Anybody on either of the phone calls have anything they want to say? Two 662 or 1314? No. All right, Bob, do you have anything for the good of the order before we wrap up?
Nothing here at all. Thank you. It's a good meeting, good discussion.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, it's almost 3 o'clock, so we're under an hour. Not bad. Okay, well, we will get out to this group before the next meeting in 2 weeks. Some of the alternatives, ideas, thoughts, options from staff. So you'll have that in advance of our meeting in 2 weeks. And hopefully at our next meeting in 2 weeks, we can come up with a consensus for recommendation to City Council. That would be the next stop is okay, here you go, City Council, here's what our thoughts are for the future of the downtown marketplace going into the winter. So, and again, we all realize we may have to say there are some contingencies too, depending upon where things go with indoor dining and the pandemic. So we recognize that as well. So, okay. Well, very good. Thank you all. Stay healthy.
Hey, thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Take care.